There's a phrase you hear maybe at the Oscars or something like that. It's behind every great man, there's a great woman. It's a phrase I'm sure you've come across. So Fortinet is a great company. What's the great woman behind that?
It's a fantastic question. I think what you're hinting at is FortiGuard threat intelligence, and I'll talk a little bit about the evolving threat landscape to answer that question. Cybercrime is becoming more sophisticated, it's becoming more widespread, and it's becoming more destructive. And we're almost being told now, organisations of all shapes and sizes, to prepare for a cyber attack. And there's a few things that are causing that. We've talked a lot about the move to remote working and the foothold that introduces to threat actors. But also when you break it down into things like ransomware, it's actually quite low cost for the threat actors to set up and deploy some ransomware, but very highly profitable. So it's a bit of a no-brainer. So everybody's out there, all the threat actors are deploying ransomware. A recent survey I saw said that the average dwell time, and so the average time an attacker spends on a network, and to get to that number, you're talking mean time to detect. How long does it take us to detect an attacker? Plus mean time to remediate, how long does it take us to throw them out? And that dwell time is 51 days for organisations up to 250 employees. So it's the SMB market that really feeling the pain for this. As you move through the organisation sizes, so 3,000 to 5,000 employees, it might come down to something like 30 days. Either way, it's still too high. And what we're trying to do as an industry is really shrink that down to a matter of seconds or sub-seconds. By the way, 10 years ago, that dwell time number was something like 400. So as an industry, we're getting better at it. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that. The technology is getting much better and more sophisticated as well. People are taking security a lot more serious. But we're still not there. We need to shrink it down to a matter of seconds, sub-seconds. The way we do that is by using things like FortiGuard threat intelligence and a lot of the artificial intelligence and machine learning that goes into it. So, Fortinet's been in business for over 20 years. We deploy more than a third of the world's firewalls. If you think of all the intelligence that comes off those 40 gates that are deployed out there, we put that into a network that we call the FortiGuard Threat Labs. We automate a lot of things in there, and then we will push that out to protect our customers. And that's the real power of the FortiGuard Labs to try and protect against that. We're only going to do it with artificial intelligence and machine learning as well, really drive that number down. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. There's obviously a very intelligent system behind that, and that obviously brings it out. So, Fortinet obviously have not just a firewall company anymore, and they have the likes of EDR, for example. I was recently on a forum, for example, and they said, what's the number one? I was actually on a forum with the bad guys. Yeah. Okay, I won't go into details of what it was, but it was a forum, an open forum, and the question was put to him, what's the number one product to stop you getting into my organization? His answer was EDR. So EDR to me is at the forefront of that intelligence, and at the forefront of stopping at the perimeter if you can, but also reducing that dwelling time.
Definitely, and it's interesting to find out what you do in your spare time, but each to their own. But from an EDR perspective, you're absolutely spot on, and there was a well-known case during COVID, a high street retail chain that were hit with ransomware, a very well-known chain, and you can almost see it being played out over instant messenger, and messages going back and forth, and the ransomware was deployed. They said, look, we've got access to everything, pay us. I think it was more than £10 million they were asking for. And the high street retailer was saying, look, we've been decimated with COVID, all our stores are shut down, we haven't got that much money. The threat actors came back and said, well, actually, we've got access to everything. We can see your finances, that you're doing pretty well online with online sales. We've also got access to your cyber insurance policies, so we know that you're covered up to about $10 or $15 million. We're asking for less than that, so pay us up, kind of thing. And this was all being played out in real time over a day or two, and that's the reality of it. If there's a foothold in, that the ransomware can get deployed, and you end up in a situation like that, and it's a terrible situation.
Ransomware is very unforgiving in the sense that it'll attack anybody anywhere. Obviously here in Ireland we've had the HSE that was hit, and was all over the headlines. You know, I don't know how long the dwelling time was in there. I'm not privy to that information myself, but obviously they were in there quite a lot and quite long, and they did an awful lot of damage.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And you're right, that there's a number of tools. EDR is a fantastic one, you know, protecting the endpoint and looking at your security maturity from everything from visibility through to, you know, have you got those capabilities that when you press that red panic button, when you're hit, not if you're hit, it is almost a case of when you're hit, you know, have you got procedures in place to remediate and kick it out, and whether you're doing that internally with things like EDR and you're looking at the detection and response yourself and shrinking that attack surface, or whether you're doing it as a managed surface. You know, a lot of the SMB customers that are hit with ransomware maybe don't have trained threat hunters. They certainly won't have a SOC in place, a security operations center to manage this. So let's do it as part of a managed service. And then you look at the wider Fortinet portfolio, whether it's things like FortiDeceptor or FortiIsolator. We've just released FortiRecon as well, that really gives you an eye into the digital attack surface. So there's a bunch of tools out there that we've got, and it all comes back to the sort of power of the Fortinet fabric, powered by FortiGuard threat intelligence.
Yeah, so like, I mean, Fortinet are known as a firewall company, but that's gone. That's gone a long time ago. You know, they are a security company. Yeah. They're looking after the LAN, the WAN, and of course the perimeter. That's not gone away, but the cloud as well. And all these products that you just mentioned, the Isolator, Deceptor, you know, they're all helping, and they all automated and talking to each other, and that's the security fabric that Fortinet have always gone on about for a long, long time.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
That's great.